Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here from the Raiders Report, and coming up on today's show, I'm going to be breaking down my 2023 practice squad projection. Before I get into that, let's roll quickly through the Raiders' 53-man roster because, well, had a lot of Raider fans reach out to me and say, Mitch, I don't know if you noticed this, but there's 54 players on it. I'll tell you why that there's 54. Now, yes, the Raiders decided to keep 3 quarterbacks. No real surprises here. Running back is the reason why there's 54 players on this roster because technically, according to NFL.com, Josh Jacobs is still on the exempt list. So he is not listed, technically, on the 53 according to NFL.com, but we know that the Raiders decided to keep their star running back. So you're going to look at different people out there putting out different information. The reason why the Raiders have 54 players on their roster is because technically Jacobs is on the exempt list, which simply means once the Raiders take him off that on the transaction wire, which is probably going to be today, that means that they're going to have to move on from a player on the 53. Let's all go to the wide receivers here that his team decided to keep 6. The surprising name, Christian Wilkerson. At tight end, they decided to keep 3. No big surprises here. The offensive line was definitely a big discussion yesterday on social media because they kept 8, and when you keep Justin Herron, who was horrendous this entire offseason, then you also rolled the dice with Jordan Meredith. Was a little bit surprised about them. However, Meredith did outplay Netane Moody. He did outplay Hroniss Grasu, and he did outplay Alex Bars during the preseason. Let's all go to the defensive side of the football. The Raiders kept 4 defensive ends. Malcolm Kuntz was the surprising name here. Shout out to him. Happy he ended up making this team. At defensive tackle, they're rolling with 6 DTs. And Jeremy Chuggs and I said a few months ago that this Raiders organization was not thrilled about Matthew Butler, was not thrilled about Neil Farrell Jr., in fact, regretted drafting both of them, and now they are no longer a part of this organization. At linebacker, they kept 5. We knew that they were going to end up keeping at least 4, and they decided to go with Curtis Bolton, never a doubt. Let's go to cornerback here. 6 corners end up making this squad. The surprising name on here is David Long. I do think an interesting name to keep in mind of maybe one of the guys that Jacobs takes over for is Brandon Faison. Maybe they decide to put him on short-term IR, been battling a little bit of an injury. But the fact that Duke Shelley did not make this team, I'm not going to lie, that one was definitely an eye-popper. And then at safety, I've been saying it for a long time, Roderick Teamer Jr. is a player that this organization has liked for a very, very long time. He ends up making it 5 safeties. And then to round it out, Daniel Carlson, A.J. Cole, and then at long snapper, it's Jacob Bobenmoyer, which means now it's time to get into my practice squad projection. And for a lot of people that always ask, there's a few rules that I do think that you need to know when you put together a practice squad projection. Players with an unlimited amount of experience, you can only have 6 players max. Players with 2 or fewer seasons, so you can have 10 max. No seasons or were active less than 9 games in one season, 16 players max. So that's an important rule. And actually, because of the Raiders, you can actually keep 1 extra player because of the International Pathway Program. So again, it's important to know that on a full 16-man practice squad, at least 6 of your players must have 0 accrued seasons or accrued seasons with fewer than 9 active games. That's very important. The number one, probably most important thing when putting together a practice squad. So before I show you which players I believe end up making it, hit that subscribe button, turn on those notifications. Jeremy Chuggs and I, we were live for 6.5 hours yesterday. Got home, took Chuck on a little walk, then made another video for you guys and waking up bright and early to give you my practice squad. Why? You might not agree with everything that I say, but I know this. Raider Nation, if you got commitment to excellence, I'm going to show you that we have the exact same thing here on this show. So let's go to the practice squad, and we're going to roll through some of these different players. At quarterback, it's going to be Chase Garbers is my prediction. Also, the names that you're going to see on my practice squad projection are from the Raiders roster this entire offseason. They might decide to add a few claims today, which if it happens, great. But I'm only basing it off of the players that were on this roster during the offseason. At running back, Sincere McCormick, I know that they like him a lot. He's been working hard to get back from his injury from last season, getting better and better and better. I know that these 2 players are almost a lock to be on this squad. Then McClendon Curtis. I don't know if he's going to make it back. I don't know if he's going to clear waivers. I do believe that he's one of the better offensive guards that were released during NFL Cutdown Day yesterday. I know this team loves him a lot, and definitely a name that if he makes his practice squad, I'm going to be jumping for joy. Let's go to tight end now. Cole Fotheringham, who really showed out, I think, in the preseason, showed that he was able to catch the football a lot better than what people gave him credit for. And then I'm also going to throw in another tight end here, John Samuel Shenker, because of his ability to play fullback. The Raiders used him at fullback quite a bit this offseason, and I know that he's also a team leader, good glue guy. A lot of players in that locker room really rallied around him, especially some of the younger ones. So that's why here are the first 5 players on my Raiders practice squad. Now, if you don't know, you're like, Mitch, that's a sick get-up. You're damn right it's a sick get-up. And shout out to today's sponsor, Marine Layer. And anytime I get a sponsor here, I want to tell you guys about them. So shout out to them for sponsoring today's show. And it's official. I have found the softest T-shirt mankind has ever made. What I love about Marine Layer is how their T-shirts stay so soft no matter how many times you wash them. It's time to invest in a wardrobe that will actually last. For a limited time, our listeners get an exclusive 15% off discount with code CHAT15 at marinelayer.com/chat15. How many times have you felt that you were in between sizes when buying clothes? Maybe you've been drinking, I don't know, a few too many boots lately, right? And what's cool about Marine Layer is they have in-between sizes. You finally no longer have to make that choice between medium and large, heck, large and extra large. We're trying to get you a large, or we're trying to get you a nice little schmedium. And if you like the shirt that I have on, and if you want to know exactly what it's called, the shirt that I'm wearing is right here, the Conrad sweater polo in oatmeal blue stripe. What I love about this company, though, is Alex has been saying, hey, babe, this is the type of clothes that I want you to wear. And I don't know if I can pull it off as well as this next guy, but I like this get up a lot. And yeah, Jeremy's looking at me right now. He's like, he's got you beat. Alex, hopefully you're not watching. Marine Layer is a go-to brand for great fitting and stylish closet staples based out of California. Marine Layer clothes are the perfect mix of laid-back style and also looks and feels premium. I think we can all admit that the perfect tee can be hard to find. Look no further than Marine Layer. For a limited time, get 15% off with code CHAT15 at marinelayer.com/chat15. I'm going to say it one more time in case, I don't know, maybe you were sleeping in the back. That's code CHAT15 for 15% off your entire order at marinelayer.com/chat15. Save your closet one shirt at a time. All those links are going to be available for you guys down in the comments and in the description of today's show. Let's go to the next player here on my practice squad projection. Adam Plant Jr. grew up in the Las Vegas area, went to UNLV, fan favorite, team favorite. I know that they're really hoping they get him back, though I also know that there's multiple teams that have their eyes on him. Let's go to Matthew Butler. The Raiders drafted him in the 5th round last season, and he didn't make this roster simply because the work ethic hasn't matched what the Raiders were hoping for. I'm hoping that this is one of those things that lights the ignition a little bit because he can be a good player. He's just got to put in more effort. Let's go to Drake Thomas, linebacker. Out of all these players, I think one of the guys that I'm hoping for the most, him and McClendon Curtis, are probably up there because Thomas is going to be a good player. He's going to put in the time. He's going to put in the effort. And the more and more time he gets in the league, I'm telling you, he's going to be on a 53-man roster at some point in his career. Let's go to Kana'i Mauga, another linebacker that this team likes. Spent some time on the practice squad last season. Has been cut once or twice now this offseason, but because of his ties to Patrick Graham and because of his ties to McDaniels and Ziegler, I think he finds himself back on the practice squad. Let's all go to Jaydon Grant at safety. He showed at times like, all right, this kid's pretty good. I was really impressed with him at joint practice. Now, the names that you guys just saw, that's 10 players, okay? The next 6 are only players that have more accrued seasons. So remember earlier in the video, I said you can have 6 max. I'm going to keep 6 max for these next players that have played more than 9 games, that have played for more than 1 season. First player coming up here is Alex Bars, and I thought either doing, this sounds weird, thought of either doing Bars or doing Moody, right? I think more teams are going to be interested in Natane Moody than Bars, and I think if the Raiders have to choose between which guy they're going to get, I'm going to tip my cap and saying they're going to try to get Bars over Moody, though both should be on their radar. Next player coming in here is Keelan Cole. He was a big-time favorite of Aidan O'Connell, and he didn't make the team last season, but he did spend a lot of time on the practice squad. So it could be an interesting name because he was on the practice squad last season. Let's go to the next player here. It's Tyler Hall. Patrick Graham loves versatility, and they were using him at safety. They used him as nickel. He could play in the slot. He can do a lot of different things. And if you were to ask me the top 5 most surprising players that didn't make this roster, I would say Tyler Hall is going to be up on that list. Let's go to the next name here, Hroniss Grasu, who can play a little bit of center, play a little bit of offensive line, and because of that versatility, I do think there's a shot. Jaquan Johnson at free safety is another name. I know they released him, one of the very first names yesterday, if not the first name, but because of his play in the secondary, someone to think about. And then the final name here is Sam Webb at corner. I know that this team likes him a lot. He played in 17 games last season for the Raiders, and he's another player that, man, if you were to tell me what top 3 players that this team wants to get back, top 4, Sam Webb, Tyler Hall, McClendon Curtis, and then also Drake Thomas. Some of y'all might be saying, well, Mitch, what happened to Dalton Wagner? He's done for the season. They put him on IR. But also because of the International Pathway Program, the Raiders, they get to keep an extra practice squad for free, just like they got to keep 91 players the entire offseason. They also get to keep an extra practice squad player, and that's going to be David Agoha. So I do think this is important to know. This year, the Raiders have defensive end David Agoha on their roster, who comes from the NFL's relatively new International Pathway Program. Per that program's rule, Agoha can stay on the team's practice squad without taking up one of the 16 spots. However, he will not be eligible to be signed to the 53-man roster during the season. If the Raiders use the exemption, he'll just sit there and develop all season. So again, we got David Agoha here making this roster. 17 players on the practice squad. We'll see some other names. I know personally that I've been told that the Raiders are interested in DeAnthony Jones. He was released by the Chicago Bears. And I also was told by a good source that the Raiders are interested in O'Shane Ximines, who was released by the New York Giants and has some ties with Patrick Graham. My next question is this. Who did I leave off my Raiders practice squad projection? It's a lot more difficult to project a practice squad because there's a lot more variables compared to a 53-man roster. We did hit over 90% on our 53-man roster for the 4th year in a row, so I'm going to pat Chat Sports Raiders Report here on its back a little bit. But I'm curious who we let off our practice squad projection. Before I leave you guys today, let's run through this one more time rather quickly. In terms of the players that have less than 9 games, less than 1 season of experience, it's these 5 players here, and then it's the next 5 players here. So that means I was allowed to keep 6 other, we'll call them veterans, if you will, and that's this 6 players here, and then David Agoha, the International Pathway Program player. If the Raiders make any others big-time splashy moves today, make sure those notifications are turned on. If you don't know where you can find the notifications, there is literally a bell underneath this video. Click that, click all, because if you miss something, that's on you. And from what I understand, Brandon Jasper, he's going to come out, and he's going to be looking for you, and I don't want that to happen to you.